My name is Lester Monzon.
When I was really young, like when I was in elementary school, it came to me where I started reading comic books. My reading wasn't the best. I was kind of like a late learner or a challenge learner. So one of my teachers at the time in elementary school would buy me comic books, and he would just be like, "Hey, over the weekend, read this and tell me the story, what you read." So I started getting into comics when I was really young, and then I started to try to draw, which a lot of kids would do. You try to draw like Spider-Man or Superman or Batman. And that's how I started to draw, First I would trace over them, and then I try to do them on myself, or then I started making my own poses. And then, you start creating your own superheroes, and then you start making your own comic books. And then you realize from that, you got to color in the comic books, you got to color in. And then I didn't like the crayon just because I didn't like how it looked. So I started, doing with really cheap watercolors and brushes. So I started doing with that. So I started to learn how to paint that way, because I started painting when I was fairly young with watercolors, and then you just do that after, from there you go on to like acrylics and oils, and then the medium starts to change my view of what art is, because I didn't really go to museums a lot when I was a kid, that wasn't really exposed to me that much until my last couple of years in high school, because I transferred over to a magnet school, and then it was kind of like a visual performance art high school. And so that's when more introduction started to come into me as like art, in the sense of like contemporary art, or like what fine art, traditional fine art, I guess you can say. And but before all that was just me playing with the materials, and seeing what they can do, and then from there, you just start to you start to obsess over it, the materials, the art history, contemporary art, and as you grow up, little by little, because after high school, I started to do a lot of murals, so I did quite a few murals in Long Beach, with elementary schools and stuff like that, which was fun. I did it for quite a few years. I did it with a Long Beach mural artist named Greg Navarro Pickens. So, which actually we did a mural at Long Beach University.
Oh, cool.
But it's something else when you start to get this commercial side of it, because we're doing these murals, and then you just start questioning what you're doing, and you want to be able to have more meaning in your life, or change the meaning of your life, or change the meaning of what you're doing, So then because to become a fine artist it's like a real commitment, it's like a marriage, I guess you can say, or like a relationship, it's a real commitment. There's a lot of artists that I know who have never stopped. I think I've only known a couple of people that really don't do it anymore from like college, yeah, so it's like a major, and when they stop doing it, to me, it feels like, oh, they got a divorce. Like they've divorced their last lives. You know what I mean? So that's how I, would say how everything kind of climbed up. I always start off with the graph, which is like this grid that you're seeing in the background. And for me, that's always kind of like, it's kind of like the order of everything, or the way things are kind of supposed to be, and the way, where everybody goes to work, and everybody, things that you're supposed to do, like an active, productive person,
Right.
Like we're supposed to fulfill our roles, and so I always start off with that type of a grid. And then from there, I destroy it by painting. Now, for the past couple of years, the paintings or the brushstrokes that I've been doing have been placing have always been either a word or a sentence or almost like a drawing, something that's kind of like personal to me that nobody ever sees, kind of like this is an individual thing that no one's going to know or means something to me. And so majority of those times are done in oil paints, and they're kind of thick and gooey. So I let that rest for quite some time, especially if it's like on a really big panel. They take a while so it can dry. And I make sure nobody sees them. I make sure I don't take a photograph at this point of the painting, because it's supposed to be extremely personal. And then that's just one aspect. The other aspect is this idea of just destroying this grid, getting rid of the grid with something that's extremely like, I'm an individual, we're all individuals, so it's putting something that's completely against what this grid is. And then I just start to destroy everything. I'll keep what I like in the sense of this portion of the word or the brushstroke, or I might destroy it by sanding, or I just might get like a scraper or something to smear everything off. Because it's thick paint, so as soon as you start to, you break off that first layer, it's all wet underneath. So I smear everything off, I get rid of it, and then I let it dry, and then it just goes over in this process of how much I'm getting rid of and then putting back in. So I might get rid of, say, like 80% of the brushstrokes and of the painting, and then I'll put back in the graph that was there underneath. Because after I destroyed it, I've also destroyed the graph. So it's also rebuilding this graph back up. So it's this consistent, at this point, it tends to be a little bit of a like formal process type of a painting. But at a certain point, I end that process. And then when I know where I'm right, where it's like I know just enough what to get rid of, I know what I need to do from there. And so from there, it's kind of exploiting the visual that's on the panel. So brushstrokes are, a lot of the times they are re-rendered. I'll go over a brush, there's a brushstroke and you'll see it, it's forking to the right, and you can tell at some point it was destroyed or smeared. I'll go over a lot of those areas and re-render those brushstrokes. So a smear the color might be more dramatic than what it actually is supposed to be. So everything is a bit exploited. And then, sometimes I'll re-render the entire brushstroke so it looks like light might be hitting it a certain way, which could create depth next to another brushstroke or another mark. Or, maybe it looks like there's like a light coming from behind the panel, or, the gesso is kind of bright. So that's how it usually works.
So the area that I live in Koreatown in Little Bangladesh, it's extremely congested, and I think it's had a lot of influence on my work just because I'm in the middle of this town, and it's, there's all these apartments here. There's a lot of people that live here. There's a lot of families that live in these small apartments, and everybody's just trying to get along with everybody. So everything is compacted and congested. The way the city or the way the area is, there's always graffiti, there's always somebody tagging, and then the next day it gets taken down. It gets repainted over, and then it gets tagged again. And how everything is congested with people trying to look for parking, people honking at each other. It takes it forever to get around this neighborhood. Just how the idea of how rough everything is has an effect on how the painting is structured, or the end result of the painting. So the lines and all this stuff, in a lot of ways, and the grids and the graph, it's a lot of ways how I see how the layering out of how I live, or the streets and the homes and the, you know, get parking spots and the shops and everything, you know, and then life is just trying to work its way around all of that. You know, frustration works its way around that. Joy works its way all around that. You know, the hardship works its way all around it, you know. I mean, I think they're an extension of myself. I think they're an extension of myself, but there's also, it's of the city, you know, or of the urban environment, of the place that I live. You know, if I was, you know, if I was somebody living in a different neighborhood, or if I was sure if it would be different, I was living in Eagle Rock, or if I was living in, you know, closer to the beach or something, the work might reflect differently, you know. But I've been here for 20 years, so I've seen this neighborhood change drastically, you know. So I've seen, when I first moved in the neighborhood, it was, you know, it was really violent. There's a lot of violence that I saw here, where it was kind of eye-opening. It wasn't that new to me. I mean, I saw it when I was really, really young, and I was also told about it when I was really, really young, especially in parts of New York where we lived, in boroughs and stuff. But yeah, it was different when I was an adult, because I was like, whoa. And then, but this has an environment that really does, the paintings do reflect a lot, or for me, I see a lot of my environment in it, you know. I think it's something that I don't think I can get away from it, you know.
In a sense of, it gives me a sense about handling paint, or there's like a diverseness to the surface, would be like Mark Bradford. Because what happens is you can see his hand everywhere. His hand is evident, like, all around the work. You know, you see how this strip was moved over. It was sanded here. You can see there's an indented things. How, you know, how probably he grabbed onto the panel or the painting, and it was stretched and something kind of tore. But look, he put a tape over it and painted over it. You know, like, I like that all that is evident, like, in his work, because you see it. You know, you see the history on his paintings. It's a history of his body, of his hands, of his movements. You know, you can see his mind working. You can see it, like, oh, I'm going to stop and then I'm going to take care of this. Or you can see where he took like a mouse sander and just sanded, you know, one whole area, or he put like, you know, shoestrings, and you can see how, like, it's all there. He's not hiding anything. So I really like that warmth of his painting, because there's no distance between the viewer and the object. It's just, for me, it's like a visual harmony, because I'm jumping, my eyes are going around and following things, and then I'm stepping back and trying to reanalyze everything. So I really, for me, that's a very warm painter to me. You know, he's extremely inviting to, like, your body's invited to his work, your eyes are invited to his work. You know, it kind of tells you to get closer to it, and then it tells you to move away from it, you know.
Yeah, there is a bit of a dirtiness to my work, or weathered, and that is an aesthetic.
Yeah.
That comes at it from time, you know. Yeah, I've always enjoyed it. I mean, sometimes there's even a bit of there's dust on these that kind of just build up just from the sandings and stuff, because I try to spray it off with like an air spray to get as much of it off, you know, but you can't do that too much. There is a delicateness to it, you know.
My advice to anyone who's young and who has been thinking about being an artist, First off, I would probably have to say, and this might not make sense at your age, but it'll make sense a lot more when you're older, that if you're thinking that you want to be an artist, you probably already are. You already are an artist. Like, you're already thinking a certain way and you're looking at things a little differently from somebody else. And, you might sit there and be like, am I the only one thinking this? Is this a little odd? No, you're just an artist. So, accept those moments of questioning things, and accept those things that, like, every time you look at something, your head's a little tilted, and everybody else's like heads are straight up, but you're just a little like, wait, what? I see it like this. I would say, especially now when you're home all the time, draw, paint, read books on art.
I think anything that you want to do or pursue, it's something that is a passion of yours. It can be a law degree, it can be becoming a teacher, a professor, electrical engineer. It doesn't really matter. I think same thing with arts. I mean, it's something that you really want it to be your life. And if it is something that you want it to be in life, you surround yourself in that field, even from a young age. If you're into acting, you would watch films of actors that you enjoy, and if you enjoy buildings, and if you're really young, you probably ask your parents to take you somewhere to check out a cool building or something. It starts off from little things like that, and then as you get older, you start to get to delve into a little bit more seriously. So if you're passionate about it, you'll find your way in there.
To pursue a career in art, you're going to have to accept failure. Lots. You're going to have to accept failure, embrace failure. You're going to have to welcome challenges. You're going to have to be able to question everything that you're doing as to why you're doing it. You're going to have to be able to commit to make this this is your life. This is a relationship that you're going to have, a life that kind of can affect you financially, that can affect you in a lot of different ways. You're also going to have to understand that you're going to be meeting people that you would never have met before if it wasn't for art. You're going to be able to see so many different kind of point of views, and just to be able, you're going to have to be able to keep on doing it, and you want to be able to see as much art as you possibly can. You want to be able to see as much as you can. And when I say see as much, I'm not talking about like in your phone or on a laptop or a tablet. But if you're young, have your parents take you to LA County Museum, the Long Beach Museum, everywhere that you possibly can go, especially during the summer times. If your school's taking you to a museum, go check it out. If you're like near a city and you see a small little gallery, walk in that gallery, talk to somebody there. You learn so much just from that. If you can just see it right in front of you. If you see people painting on a wall, doing murals, introduce yourself. That could be like the start of a brand new relationship that can affect you and what you're pursuing. You have to be able to put yourself out there. That's what I would say. Sometimes it can be a little, it can be difficult for some people if they're not, the most social, but it helps you to overcome some of those things because you have something in common. So I would say do a lot of work, paint, draw, try to always do better, whatever you feel that better is in those drawings and paintings. Look a lot on art, see art that's alive right in front of you. Meet new people, and you just keep working at it. You know, study a lot, know your art history. You know what's happening right now. You know, what's happening in the art world at the moment as well.